All right, for these notes, you're going to be practicing writing equations in intercept form when given a variety of different situations to start with. Remember that the goal of this entire lesson is to have your equations end up in the format of y equals mx plus b. Sometimes you will be given one piece and not the other. Sometimes you will be given neither piece and you will have to find all of them. Right? So when we take a look at the first instance, we're going to take and write an equation from the slope and y-intercept when it's given. Right, so this first example, I'm going to sketch a picture, and you need to do so in your notes as well. And that's all you get is the picture. So from the picture of this line, we need to come up with the equation that made this line. Well, the whole basis of slope-intercept form is knowing the slope and knowing the y-intercept. So when you can find those two pieces, then you can put them into the formula and get your equation. So the first thing I want to find is the y-intercept, which is the b. And if you look at the y-axis, it crosses at +2, so your b is 2. And then to find the slope from a graph, we want to use rise over run. So pick any two dots that you've got and do your rise over run. Okay, you'll notice I went up 3 and left 1, so that's 3 over -1, which is the same as -3. Now that I know the value for m and the value for b, I'm going to plug them into the equation, into the formula, and come up with the equation of this line. So my answer is y equals -3x plus 2, and that's all I need to do. So when you have a picture, you just have to identify the two parts from the picture. The other way that you're going to be given the same concept is they're flat out going to tell you exactly what the slope and y-intercept are, right? So for example, number 2, you are given that the slope is -4/5 and the y-intercept is -9. Well, once you have those two pieces, insert them into the correct letter spot in your formula and you've got your equation already done. There is no math to this. So it'll be y equals -4/5 x minus 9. And that's your equation that has the slope and the y-intercept that's given to you. Right? So that's the easiest, is when they have that information that you can either get from the picture or they flat out give it to you. The next level of difficulty is when you have to write the equation from a point and slope. In other words, they're going to give you one ordered pair and they're going to give you the slope, and from that information you have to be able to give the equation. This is going to take a little bit more calculation involved, but it's not the hardest one or the most difficult. Okay, once you understand what you're doing. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is give you the steps of how to do this, and then I'm going to show you some examples of what to do. Right? That way you have something to follow if you get lost and places to go back at when you try to do this on your own. The very first thing you want to do is find the y-intercept using y equals mx plus b. They're going to give you the m. Your job is going to be to find the b, right? But they're also going to give you an ordered pair to do that. Right? Once you find that y-intercept, your second thing is to write an equation using the given slope and your y-intercept from step 1. And then you'll be done with your equation. So you've got your m, you've got your b, you put it together and you'll have your equation. All right, so let's take a look at a couple different variations of this and a couple different ways that this could be written. The first one, I am going to give you the ordered pair of 1, -6, and I'm going to tell you that the m is -2. Right? And this is what your problems will look like. They'll give you the slope and they'll give you one ordered pair, and your job is from that information to find the b and then turn around and put it all into the equation. Right? And if you remember, every ordered pair has an x and a y. Right? So that means from the equation y equals mx plus b, I have something to put in every letter spot except for the b. So that's going to enable me to solve and figure out what that b is. So in place of the y, I'm going to put -6. In place of the m, I'm putting -2. In place of the x, I'm putting +1, and then I've got plus b, because that's my whole job and purpose, is to figure out what the b is. So then you keep going by simplifying and evaluating and solving the equation. -6 equals -2 plus b. To get b by itself, you want to add 2 to both sides. -6 plus 2 is -4, and that's your b value. So now that you have your b value, and they gave you your m value, go and write the equation that's in intercept form. So for this line and this information, your answer is y equals -2x minus 4. Notice how I took the m that was given and the b that I calculated and put them together into the formula and came up with my equation. Okay. So let's try another one. This time your ordered pair is -4, -5, and your m value is -1/2. Same process. Take y equals mx plus b, take out the letters you do know, and leave the b behind because that's what we're trying to find. Okay, so this would be -5 equals -1/2 times -4 plus b. Okay, and -1/2 times -4 is an easy calculation because half and 4 go in nice and easily. Half of 4 is 2, negative times negative is positive, so that becomes 2 plus b. Subtract your 2, and you get -7 is b. So now that you know the b value and you're given the m value, put it together in your formula, and it's y equals -1/2 x minus 7. And that's the equation for the line that you would need to generate. Remember, this whole chapter is going to be about coming up with the equations, not so much the pictures. Last chapter was about the graphing. This is about the equations. All right, so third one of this type, and then we'll switch to the next one, is if I give you -3, -2, and your m value is 0. Now, automatically, if I'm telling you the slope is 0, you should automatically, in your mind, have an envision that this is a horizontal line, because they're the only kind that have 0 slope. And if you know anything about horizontal lines, which you now should, all of the equations start y equals and a number. So we need to figure out what it is. Right? So we're going to use the same formula, and we're going to plug our numbers in. Right? So in place of y, we're going to put -2 equals 0 times -3 plus b. And you'll notice 0 times -3 makes 0, so essentially that part just disappears. And you have -2 equals b. Right? Well, if that's our y value, our slope is 0, right? So when we go to our equation, the answer is y equals -2. And if you remember from our previous chapter, it has a y but no x, so it will be horizontal, and it goes through the value of -2. You could have possibly gotten that just from knowing that information and using that part of the y value in your ordered pair. But again, it comes back to how much you remember and how much you know and can connect the pieces with. If you can't connect all the pieces, do the math and the pieces will fall into place for you. All right, the last part that we'll have to do deals with coming up with an equation when you are given 2 ordered pairs. And when they give you 2 ordered pairs, they're giving you nothing. You don't know the m, you don't know the b. You have to start from scratch with everything. Right? So the steps behind this, and this does take the most work, right? But you've got to know all the steps in order to get there, is the first thing you must do is find the slope. And because we have 2 ordered pairs, we're going to find the slope using the slope formula, because it's the only formula that will help us when we have 2 ordered pairs. And remember, that's the m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Right? You must start there. Right? After step 1, step 2, you get a little bit of a choice here. You want to use one of the ordered pairs, not both, just one. And your slope from step 1. To find your b. Now that we've found the m, we've calculated the m, and now we've calculated the b, the last step is going to be to rewrite your equation with the slope and y-intercept. Okay, so it takes a little bit more work because you've got to find a lot more pieces. You're not just missing one piece, you're missing everything. Right? The only thing you have given is those 2 ordered pairs. Right, so let me show you what this looks like. We'll do a couple of these just to make sure you understand what you're looking at. Okay, if I give you the ordered pairs of -2, -3, and 0, 3. Right? And that's all you get. You have to come up with an equation from it, and you cannot graph it. You simply have to go through all your formulas and using the formulas correctly to come up with the equation. Right? So the first thing we have to do is find the slope. So we have m equals y2 would be 3 minus -3 on top. Bottom would say 0 minus -2. Clean up your double signs. Okay, 3 plus 3 is going to give you 6. 0 plus 2 is going to give you 2. So your final m value is 3. Now that you know your m, use the m and then pick one of the ordered pairs to come up with the b. Right? Anytime a 0 is involved in one of the ordered pairs, pick that one. It's the easiest one to use. Otherwise, you're wasting some of your time by dealing with numbers that you could have been finished with a problem with. So if I use the ordered pair 0, 3, then I'm going to plug it into y equals mx plus b and find my b. So in the y spot, I'm putting the 3. M spot, I'm putting the 3 that I just calculated. In the x spot, I'm putting the 0 from my ordered pair. And then I'm trying to find b. Okay, 3 times 0 is 0, so essentially it wipes out of the problem, and you're left with 3 equals b. So now I know my b, and I've calculated my m. I'm ready to write my equation. So my final equation to all this information is y equals 3x plus 3. Okay, now as far as the y-intercept goes, if you know a little bit about your ordered pairs, many of you could have looked at this ordered pair 0, 3 right here and known that the 3 is in the y spot and that that is in a y-intercept. You wouldn't have had to solve for b because you would automatically have known that 3 deserves to go there. Right? But if you can't do that yet, or if you're not comfortable with that, then do the math to confirm it and get it right that way. Okay? So sometimes there are some shortcuts. You just have to know all your other pieces. All right, for the last one that we'll do, -5, -3 is your ordered pair, and -3, -6. So once again, the first thing you want to do is start off by finding your slope. So m equals, the top will say -6 minus -3. The bottom will say -3 minus -5. Clean up your double signs. Okay, so -6 plus 3 is -3. -3 plus 5 is +2. You cannot reduce that. You do not need to divide it because we don't want decimals. We want to leave our slopes as fractions. So -3/2 is what you're going to be dealing with. Yes, it's a fraction, but you will have to deal with it. So use your calculator to assist you, or use the numbers in your best interest. All right, so go to y equals mx plus b. Pick one of the ordered pairs, and at this point, it doesn't really matter who you pick. They're all going to come out working the same way. Just pick one. Okay, so I'm going to pick the second one, right, just because I like the numbers better, but you can pick whichever one you want. It'll work out the same. In the y spot, I'm putting my -6. In the m spot, I'm putting -3/2 times x, which is -3, and then plus b, because I'm trying to figure out the b value this time. Okay, when you go to multiply -3/2 times -3, okay, it doesn't come out nice and clean, right? Because it's not an even number. The -3 doesn't go away very well. So you have to make it a fraction, and when you make it a fraction, you have to multiply straight across. -3 times -3 is +9. 2 times 1 is 2. So the fraction becomes 9/2, and then plus b. If you want to turn it to a decimal to operate through the equation and then convert it back to a fraction at the end, I'm okay with that. Just make sure you convert it back. Do not leave me with decimals anywhere in these equations or in your work. Okay, so then the next point you want to do is to get b by itself. You want to subtract 9/2 from both sides. Okay? Or even better, because many of you don't like fractions, let's scratch that. And let's get rid of fractions the way we've been getting rid of them through our equation chapter. If I want the fraction to go away, I can make my life a lot easier by multiplying the entire equation by 2 on both sides, and the fraction will disappear. So if I multiply by 2, I have -12 equals, the 2 goes away because of the 2 on the outside. That leaves me with 9 plus 2 times b is 2b. Many of you are more confident and much more successful solving it from here. Subtract your 9. That gives you -21 equals 2b. Divide by 2, and 2 does not go into 21, so you leave your answer as -21/2. So now I have a b value, and then my m value was -3/2. So put the two pieces together and write your equation. So our final equation for this last example is y equals -3/2x minus 21/2. I would not ask you to graph this, but in the chapter on writing equations from it, you will be expected to write an equation that does have fractions in it. Okay, so make sure that you can operate with all the different types of numbers.